Welcome to the Continuous Transformation Podcast, where spirit and science meet and creatively merge to give birth to the future. Disclaimer: high risk of life-transforming perspectives.
This is the best time to begin your continuous transformation process.
Your host is Advaitananda, a visionary, influencer, and scientist with a quantum physics background and more than 30 years' experience of yoga, tantra, and meditation practice and teaching. Episode 13. Prepare certain skills for an uncertain future. What kind of skills do we need to be prepared for the future that awaits us? Tantric aspirant Kailas asks this poignant question, a daring inquiry that asks us to look the storm of transformation in the eye. Will we be overwhelmed by the speed of technological advancement, or learn to fly and shift our existential paradigm forever?
Of course, we say that inevitably today the future is technological, but it will not be sustainable, in my opinion, without the evolution of the user.
What kind of skills can I start now to develop, to invest on, in order to be more prepared for the future to come?
Take hold of your capacity to focus, which is one of the most damaged systems that we have today and one of the most important in the future, which will unlock all the other capacities that we have and that are strictly human. They are beyond machinery in any way, so they are even beyond this machinery, this biological machine.
Technology is replacing many other tasks that we used to do. It also gives us a chance to do other things, to focus inside, for example, to connect with what is our potential, let's say, as human beings.
You see, you try to send an emoticon. What does it mean for you? Stop a moment and start to realize you are an emotional being. Hi, welcome to the Continuous Transformation Podcast. Today, I will talk about the future and how to prepare for its arrival. It seems that the future will arrive with a lot of surprises for all of us, and it's not something new. Future is a constant fascination for the human being. We started long before the Delphi oracle in the ancient Greece, and today we put modern quantum supercomputers to look into the future. This preoccupation to the future, which sometimes is bordering obsession, is rooted in an innate curiosity that I find in myself. I'm sure all of us have it, to explore the unknown. And of course, what is more mysterious than the future? The future, I would say, is the vast unknown of time. Of course, on the other hand, we can say that today everything accelerates. Life modifies in a rhythm that is unprecedented. In the next 20 years, it is said, our life will modify more than in the last 200 years. Of course, that makes our curiosity about the future almost unbearable. We all want to peek into the future to see what is there for us. Of course, that also brings in the discussion the frame of our existence. We are so attached to the status quo, we are so attached to what we are and how we live our life today. And the rhythm of this transformation becomes almost a threat. And in this respect, it is said that today most of our jobs are morphing into something else. Therefore, we will need to transform our relationship with our existence. And of course, that is, in my opinion, touching a very sensitive topic, transformation. That's the reason why I chose the title of this podcast, Continuous Transformation, because I find it extremely useful today. I dare to say that today we have a very poor relationship with transformation. However, the future will require that we fix that problem. It's obvious that in the future we will have a good relationship with transformation, or we will have a very hard time. We're today obviously on the verge of what we can call a precipice, and we are about to jump forward. Now, there are two possible outcomes at extreme of this endeavor. We can fall and crush to our demise, as obviously many sci-fi movies predicted and many books predicted in the past that will happen sooner or later to us. Or the second possibility is that we can learn to fly in the fall, and therefore we will shift forever our existential paradigm. It is, I would say, now the moment when we will have to decide what's the outcome of this leap forward. And of course, the factor time and the factor future here is essential because it's, in a way, the relationship that we have with future and with the transformation that is bringing about that decide the outcome of this very abrupt journey, I would say. The question that I want to put forward today is, are we aware of the magnitude of the choice that we're facing today? I would say that we are starting to comprehend the magnitude, but we're far from understanding it. We don't realize that what we do today regarding our life, starting from a person and ending with the whole planet, will define the destiny of humanity. It is said that by 2027, which is just around the corner, computers are likely to match the capacity of the human brain. And of course, the question is, will that mean a Terminator-like scenario coming upon us? There are doomsdayers which are saying that this will happen. And of course, there are also the fanatics of technology, which are the deniers of any negative impact of technology. Personally, I don't think neither are right, but neither are completely wrong. There are definitely side effects of this technological boom, some of them which are detrimental to our development. Some of them are obviously good and useful. I am talking now to you through technology. I'm recording it. I'm recording this talk in the use of technology. On the other hand, Annette Zimmerman, research vice president on Gartner, predicts a few years ago, quote, by 2022, which is exactly around the corner, your personal device will know more about your emotional state than your own family, end quote. And that is obviously a problem, because in this way, we will not be able to find who we truly are. Today, we invest enormous resources, and that is the statistics, enormous resources in opening new fields of operation and jobs related to technology and its implementation in the human life. We spend more time in front of screens than we spend in front of our own heart. It is estimated that by 2030, at least 25% of the workforce of the world will have to switch occupational categories. So they will not just upgrade their jobs capacity, but they will switch completely occupational categories. 25%. And that if the rhythm of this transformation is maintained to the level of 2019. In the last year, obviously, this rhythm did nothing but accelerate. So probably we're talking about more like 50% of the whole workforce of the planet will shift occupational categories. Of course, that implies that new types of jobs are in demand faster than a generation. In other words, the time of our grandparents where they learned some skills and they went pension with the same skills, just much better in it, is gone. We are starting now the school learning something, knowing that in the next 10, 15 years, what we have learned now in the school will be obsolete, needs to be upgraded, and most likely need to be transformed. Of course, that again brings in the picture the transformation. The capacity to withstand such a rhythm is in fact our digestive capacity to comprehend transformation, to go with transformation. It is said that in the next years, almost 25% of the work will be done from home. And the work will be 3 to 5 days a week. Of course, this is an increase, 500%, compared with the statistics of 2019. And that trend is accelerating, which means we will be home, we will be alone if we want, or surrounded by friends, but we will be challenged by what we have within, not what we have without. The interaction between human and technology is coming fast to a point that is predicted to be emergence between human and machine. We're talking today very often about transhumanism as this converging point between human and technology. Contact lenses already start to be connected to the internet, at least in the beta phase. We are preparing now nanobots to run through our bloodstreams to regulate different functions. Our houses, our cars, and all our personal devices are connected to the cloud. And even our brains will have interface in order to connect to the cloud and to all the devices. Our cells will be very soon operated remotely by the new mRNA technology, which, by the way, is introduced today in our bodies through the new vaccines. All this is arriving today, is in the process of delivery upon our human reality. It will be implemented now in a large scale. Of course, it seems that even we're about to hack Mother Nature herself and to change her programs for us. We say that we do that in order to correct her mistakes. So all we need to do is just to sit back and enjoy the ride. But there are some problems with this ride, and in my opinion, it's a bumpy ride. And if we don't see what we need to learn today, if we don't fix our relationship with transformation itself, and if we don't understand where to focus our attention and what skills to gain, we might not enjoy the outcome. My reason here is the following. We have today an increased debate about the most preeminent sign of the rapid transformation today, which is the technological explosive development. And with a special note, I would say, to the computers and artificial intelligence. Already from the end of 19th century, there were voices, especially in the science fiction area, warning about the dangers of technological development. Even if many of these warnings were exaggerated, it must be something in it. And I have to say, growing up in a science environment, I grew up in a university family, I would say, academic family. I followed the academical path. I've seen the wonders of science, but in the same time, starting early to practice different spiritual disciplines, I also started to see there is something flawed in this development, that we ignore certain side effects that we shouldn't. Now, the idea of debate is, in my opinion, very good. However, the way we debate today about the development of technology is deceiving, because that's not the point. Very often we see the point is technology good or bad for us. And I don't think it is the point at all. We know that using a tool to enhance the human work was always an expression of our humanity. Since the inception of humanity, we can say, the monkey who just became a little bit self-aware started to enhance its capacities, started to stand up from its animal reign by using tools. So, after all, technology is just a prolongation of this impulse. Technology is a super sophisticated stick, walking stick. We also know that tools can become a trap for our human development. I remember when in university, when we studied nuclear technology, in the course of quantum physics and nuclear technology, how surprising was that the first practical application the human beings developed when we have discovered the mystery of nuclear energy was a nuclear bomb. So, of course, later on we discovered also we perfected the way to harness nuclear technology, but it costed some lives in between. Now, of course, this trap of the human development, when we grow technology, when we grow the instruments, is only because of the rhythm. What I've noticed is the fact that the inner growth does have to match the outer growth. When this balance is broken, then we're facing the trap of this rapid development of the instruments that are replacing our capacity to be aware. Practically, instruments can also contribute to our degeneration, not to our development. Of course, we know that if you are using a walking stick all the time, then your walking capacity will diminish. Look today at the capacity of people to have a constructive dialogue. Is diminishing, even though we are in touch with each other like never before. And is diminishing this capacity to have a constructive, open, emotional dialogue because we are emotionally retarded, because we replace emotions with emoticons, which are not emotions, and so on. The example can continue extraordinarily much. I would refer to a historic example. You see, technology to build fire weapons was already available to humanity thousands of years ago. But time and again, different civilizations, like the Chinese civilization who discovered the gunpowder 5,000 years ago, refused to develop guns or fire weapons. They were developed, and they are historically known, attempts to develop, and they were refused by the society because society saw in that development something that comes untimely, something that is too fast, that humanity is not ready for that kind of development. And then, of course, there was the Jesuit monks. They stole the technology from China, they brought it in Europe and developed the firearms. And then the history accelerated enormously. So, of course, what is showing this lesson, this connecting dots, is the fact that sometimes the development of a walking stick is not necessarily helping our athletic development. The problem, therefore, is in all this that the user is lost. The user of a smartphone today is outsmarted by the phone. That is a problem, and nobody is taking care of that. The company is happy to sell more smartphones, but is not even checking if the users are getting dumber than before. And of course, they are the successful people, and then we take them as an example. This is becoming actually the problem that is hiding behind the whole debate about whether technology is a doomsday cause or it is a beneficial gate to the future. Our human values that cannot be replaced by any form of technology rest within us, deep within. Now, from a certain perspective, a perspective that I found it in my journey through different spiritual systems, especially through the yoga and tantra system that I had the privilege, the enormous chance to be initiated into and to walk this path for the last 3 decades. So the view of these systems is strikingly similar and is a thousands of years old view. They say that the human being is a sophisticated biological machine, but is meant to host the spark of godly light, which is the consciousness. So it's just a matter of material, building material. In the ancient time, they didn't look at the human being as something else, but a biological machine fused with the light of consciousness. What we do today, and I worked personally in this field of artificial intelligence, what we do today is to create artificial intelligence to create the momentum of consciousness from the machine. The ancients saw it before, and they said the machine is the host, and the consciousness come from another source. Consciousness, in the view of these systems, is merged with the frame, which is the biological frame, the machine, and therefore gives the illusion of a persona. Today we have robots that give the illusion of a persona, but they are not self-aware. And interestingly, all spiritual systems in the ancient time, for instance, they represent an attempt to realize the consciousness and practically to stop this illusory identification with the biological machine. So practically they acknowledged the existence of the machine thousands of years before. They didn't wait for the development of a walking stick into a robot. We are the robots in the same time as the self-awareness of the robot. And practically the systems in the ancient time acknowledge that as such. The Tantra yoga system, for instance, is a system that was designed to transcend this identification. I've been practicing this and experienced by myself being the machine and therefore realizing who I truly am, the consciousness in the machine, the spirit in the machine. And that is actually the very purpose of such spiritual system, to find our perfectly conscious essence. Of course, being such a description as the human being, the result of the emergence of the consciousness, unconscious emergence of the consciousness with its host, with its machine, it's a striking similarity for me seeing the technology today with this ancient view, because actually it's no contradiction. We cannot even say that the ancients were warning us about technology. The ancients actually were affirming technology. They were just saying that it could be wrong, the identification with it, the emergence with it. Of course, what we see today, for instance, in transhumanism. Transhumanism is proposing a consciousness which is unconsciously already merged with its biological frame to be added with a mix of other technological machines. Of course, if you look from this perspective, you can see that it doesn't make things easier, since our purpose is to stop this unconscious identification, to realize that my hands are tools, the body is the tool for my consciousness to use, to manifest through. If I will add more sophisticated machinery to this otherwise already sophisticated labyrinth of biological technology, it makes the task even more complex. Therefore, I would say that if we didn't find ourselves in this machine, this biological machine, extending it will not make it easier. Of course, we say that inevitably today the future is technological, but it will not be sustainable, in my opinion, without the evolution of the user, which is us. And the evolution of the user means that we find ourselves within the machine. Of course, now this is just a general idea, but in order to develop further, I invited today a wonderful Tantric aspirant from Portugal, living in Denmark currently. I invited Kalas to express her questions, to help me unfold this rather hot topic. A few words about Kalas. First of all, welcome Kalas to this adventure today.
Hi, Ava. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome, and I hope this is adding to your journey in this social media. Kalas is the author of the Tantric Aspirant vlog, which I invite you all to follow, because it is a very daring endeavor. I haven't seen a Tantric practitioner starting to share openly about this secret science of Tantra. I myself have for 3 decades followed this path, but yeah, you are young on this path, young on this planet, obviously, but you started already to share this so wonderfully. Kalas is educated in project management. You did social media management in companies before. You started to be more passionate on this discovering the within. Also, she joined some time ago a very big project which is called Women of Spirituality, where together with Adina and a group of other wonderful dedicated women, you aim to help and empower women today. A very, very needed initiative, and I wish you great success in this. And of course, as I said, an enthusiastic Tantra Yoga practitioner. And I chose you not by coincidence on the subject today, not only because you're so passionate about this topic that we have today, but also because being a Tantric practitioner, you started to see how amazingly fit is this Tantric view with this debate on technology, humanism, transhumanism, and so on. Because as I exposed in this introduction, the Tantric science is actually, in my opinion, coming already with a lot of solutions to this whole debate about technology emergence with humans, transhumanism, and so on. So welcome, Kalas, and the floor is yours to play.
Thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say that I really feel it's so meaningful and valuable, everything you are discussing in your episodes, and I'm really honored to be doing this one with you. And related with this topic, I can say that I was always a very ambitious woman. So I knew since I was very young what I wanted in life, professionally and not only. And because of that, I knew the skills and let's say the qualities I had to acquire in order to reach there, the small steps, let's say, or I thought I knew. And so I had always this attitude of wanting to plan everything ahead, of controlling, of trying to predict any type of outcome. So you can imagine when we got hit by this so-called pandemic, my face facing this situation, because everything is just so unpredictable. I had to realize that we cannot plan ahead. We, as you were saying, like many skills that I thought it would be a value to develop, maybe in 5 years they wouldn't even make sense. They will be completely outdated and replaced by robots and machines, artificial intelligence that will just do it much better, even, I dare to say, and reaching high levels of performance. So my question started to be, what kind of skills can I start now to develop, to invest on, in order to be more prepared for the future to come?
Yeah, that's first of all a very daring question in today's world, because of course that implies that you look the storm in the eye, the storm of transformation, the storm of time. Unfortunately, this is one of the issues that today we lost track of. The storm of transformation is requiring from us to be ready for it, to be ready to transform. And today we have an enormous appetite to security. One of the richest business in the world is insurance. Which, if you think about it, like life insurance, you get it only if you die. So it's like this is exactly defining our attitude today, and also the absurd of it. We have a very poor relationship, as I said, with transformation, and I would say that's the first concern we need to have, to be ready for this kind of accelerating, transforming frame. One need to be holding inside a kind of a perfect reference point that is not affected by anything. Because you see, it's exactly like you are navigating, and the map is continuously, the landscape is continuously shifting. It's crazy. You can't go anywhere, because in that situation, you get lost. Suddenly, mountains are not mountains, rivers are not rivers. Then again, other mountains, other rivers. How can you navigate with such, even if you have a good compass, but it's almost impossible to navigate in that way, except if you have a reference point, a 0 point if you want, that is unaffected by any outer transformation. It's kind of a gyroscope, if we are to put it like that. The interesting fact is, we have inside of us such a 0 point that is allowing us to be available to transformation even from a day to another, not from a month or a year to another, or shifting the job completely. No, from a day to another, from an hour to another, we will be available to transformation. Fixing that relationship with transformation by finding this fixed point, this gyroscopic system that we have inside, I would say this is the best investment you can do today by far. So that's the start on it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of realized this, that I had to develop skills within that would make me ready for any type of outcome, and not trying to focus on external things, let's say on developing all kind of other skills to match the status quo all the time, let's say, to try to run against the external changes that are happening in the world. But how could I build a certain type of inner equipment, like you said, like being in contact with this inner reference point, so that I can adapt and I can be from that place in any type of situation?
Well, so one thing that is sure, and this is a very simple example, for sure in the future, we will not need the people who cannot focus very well. Computers cannot replace intuition. Computers cannot replace human creativity. Computers cannot replace human emotion. More importantly, computers cannot understand our emotional perspective. They will understand our logical perspective, but they will completely, and I would say hurtfully, ignore our emotional perspective. And it will be a back and forward. We will implement them. They will hurt the way we are as a persona, as a human being, and then we will put them on hold. We'll shut them down. And then again, we need, because they do something good for us. And instead of this learning where the door is by hitting the walls with your head, perhaps we stop a little bit and look around. And one thing is sure, our capacities, our inborn capacities, intuition, creativity, emotional intelligence, they are all locked in a box of agitation that we create by accidental shifts of our attention. Something I insist again and again because it's one of our primordial losses today. We are not owning our capacity to be aware, to direct it in any direction we want. Our attention, which is the vectorial direction of our consciousness, is taken away by the smallest stimuli. It happens a noise, it happens something that steals our attention and interest, and we're gone. Now, that is making us extremely unaware, first of all, of these deep capacities. And the superficial capacities, they will be soon replaced by machines which are doing a better job. So either we unleash the full humanity. Practically, you can say that the advancement of technology is pressing humanity against a wall now. And then we will learn how to walk through the wall. That's because we will discover we're not bound by the walls. We are made of spirit. But technology is pressing our illusion of materiality so hard now, will mock us, will make us obsolete, will retire us forcefully. Hey, humans, get out of our way. We can make a perfect world without you. But so after that, we will be forced to discover what? Our superior side of humanity. Because this is where let's say, the doomsdayers are wrong. It's not that we're doomed, it's our illusion that is doomed. The fact that we are flesh and bones is the result of a projection of our consciousness interacting with the existence at this level of vibration. And if we stop that illusion, we can use this body even the way we want. And studies and my experiments were showing something very interesting. We can unleash, even from the brain perspective, capacities that is a long time until computers will match it. Computers will match human capacity because we are poorly using all our equipment. So with other words, computers are arriving to the level where humanity have fallen. But all we need to do is to stand a little bit and we're already way beyond. And then we will discover that we can unfold wings because, surprise, we also have wings. And we can fly in the heights of the spirit where technology is just a servant and will allow us to do that because we will not be bound to earth for the daily bread. Unfortunately, as long as we're not matching the development of outside with this inner discovery of ourselves, we'll be trapped and we'll be squeezed. Technology will squeeze the spirit out of us.
Let's hope not. But I feel like
it depends on us if technology will squeeze it or we will do it by ourselves, voluntarily and happy. That's the only difference. Evolution will happen, for sure, with or without the bumpy ride. So start with that. Start with owning your own capacity to focus, your own attention. Then the journey of self-discovery. You see, you try to send an emoticon. What does it mean for you? Stop a moment and start to realize you are an emotional being. You are actually an extraordinarily emotional being. If we are to invent an emoticon for any shade of human emotion, our phones and computers will run out of memory. Mark that. As equipped as they are today, the human emotions can be far more combinatorial and complex. And we can keep track of that just like that. All we need to do is to look at it. All we need to do is to reevaluate our position and to even see that this is a tool, a super sophisticated tool, a super extraordinary equipped with a computer on board. It has a very nice computer on board. It has a very sophisticated energetics that is allowing even to travel through time and space, intuition, is able to feel the others inside, empathy, is able to predict future and to see in the past, is able to do so many things, is able to communicate directly beyond the internet, telepathy, and so on. So we already have inbuilt systems, and then on top, because we ignore them, we try to mess them up by installing artificial systems. So in order to keep up with that, you just need to upgrade. Now, of course, the result will be that some of this technology will look inefficient, will look obsolete in a certain way. But still, other parts will be useful. So we will grow together instead of growing under or dominated by.
Yeah, definitely. I feel very much that this technology and artificial intelligence can simulate a lot of things, but they cannot be. And so all this that you were saying about traits like creativity, imagination, ethics, emotion, all these aspects are things that it's our human value. It's what we can deeply connect with and add and have it in parallel with these advancements in technology, because also I feel it gives us a huge opportunity. The fact that technology is replacing many other tasks that we used to do, it also gives us a chance to do other things, to focus inside, for example, to connect with what is our potential, let's say, as human beings.
Yeah, take the example of what happened. Of course, this was artificial, but is as artificial as the technology. The artificially created crisis now, we stayed home, fearing. And then how many times you heard your friends praying for some time off? How many times? How many times you did it yourself? How many times I did it? I know how many times I was saying, stop a little bit. Let's take a break, isn't it? And in relationships, how many times people would complain, if I would have an extra day so that we can reconnect and we can... And people suddenly were locked home, in lockdown with their beloved. And what was the result? The rate of divorces was skyrocketing. Yeah. What's the conclusion there? It's a very big warning that perhaps we're self-deceiving. Perhaps we are looking in the wrong direction. We imagine that this will help us, will give us a lot of time. But what would you do when you don't know how to do with your weekends? What would you do of 7 Sundays per week? When one Sunday is miserable, one Sunday afternoon you don't know what to do with yourself. What if it's 7 Sundays? Because, of course, now we can hide behind the 5 days a week when we work. We can justify our misery. But what if it's 7 Sundays? What would you do then? And technology promised that. Technology says clearly, it's predicted already, it's just around the corner. You will work a few hours per day, 3 to 5 days a week. You stay home. In this way, we save a lot because we don't jam the roads, the planet, the air, with the unnecessary traveling and so on. You want to meet your friends, you travel. It's all very nice. And it seems like amazing with one extraordinarily big problem, us. How would you resist temptations? Now, very often, we have people maintaining a kind of a civilized frame by the entire civilization around them, which oblige them to wake up in the morning, to go to the office, but when you stay home, in your own habitat there, what stops your violent tendencies to go and, I don't know, do something unspeakable to your neighbors? Because now you are all the time home. And or maybe the neighbors will be so annoying. You don't see them normally, but a few hours per day. Or when you see them every single day. So, and now we're defunding police, interestingly enough. So we make the ride even more interesting with each other. What I want to say is the fact that this choice that we have today, now exactly in these days, is the choice of bringing ourselves into the middle of the attention, our own development, or ignoring ourselves, looking into the promises of technology and science, which is now serving no one, definitely not serving us. And, of course, sooner or later, we will have to take that into consideration. But it will be a very hard situation then. In my opinion, it's exactly like the situation when you have a small stone in your shoe, you walked a few meters, and now you have a choice. You stop, it will take a few seconds, take the stone out, continue your walk relaxed, or ignore it, invent all kinds of reasons. No, it is actually a pain that's generated by my concepts, my old concepts, which has to disappear. And I am progressive. I have to go forward. I don't stop for anything. A stone in the shoe is just a stop on the path of perfection and so on. You don't stop, no problem. You will stop when the infection from the wound that you have in the shoe, in the feet is so big that you cannot step forward. Then, perhaps after operation, maybe you lose a leg, who knows, but you are wiser. So the choice is wise. Grow wiser now by taking out the small stone, or grow wiser later and with a higher price.
But what would you say, for example, to people that want to transform? They have that aspiration to take right now this stone of the shoe. Like, what would you give as an advice concretely to do it right now? Because now it's a great time for it. I mean, as you said, we are having this kind of break, let's say, and it's a great time to do that, to kind of make this reset within and connect deeply with ourselves and with this new type of skills, let's say, that are not new. In fact, they were always within us, but now we are being forced to look there and to actually see them as a value, as an asset. So
unfortunately, we're not yet forced. So I have to mention that we're not forced to look into. Perhaps knowing you feel forced because you are much more aware of what comes. But most of the people are in the situation with the frog boiling slow. By the time the water is very, very hot, the frog's vitality is gone and the frog cannot jump out of the hot water. So, unfortunately, it is that phenomena happening, and we don't see many people warning each other today about these things. That's one of the reasons why I decided to take this topic now, and perhaps we take it again later, because I don't think it's enough for how important is the situation. On how practically one can approach this, apart from take hold of your capacity to focus, which again is one of the most damaged systems that we have today and one of the most important in the future, which will unlock all the other capacities that we have and that are strictly human. They are beyond machinery in any way. So they are even beyond this machinery, this biological machine. They don't belong. For instance, feelings and intuitions, we have dissected the human machine in all possible ways. We didn't find a trace of them. Yet they are. They are inside of us, and there are lots of studies showing that they can be extraordinarily valuable on our navigation in this, in practically any turbulent system or any turbulent environment. But apart from that, find a system that helps you to orient your attention toward yourself. Start practicing an authentic yoga system, tantra system. Start practicing meditation. Meditation, not as just sitting with your eyes closed in a position, eventually of some funny position, but meditation as is defined, for instance, by ancient yogis, the continuous flow of attention towards the topic or the object you chose. The meditation is the state that appears when your attention can flow in one direction uninterrupted by any accidental shift. Remember that, it's very simple. Anything you do it with attention focused in that direction. Don't allow interruptions to happen, because today, almost everything around us try to interrupt us. So that would be a very, very good beginning. I would say even what I call today the hygiene of consciousness. Start to have a hygiene of consciousness. Do not entertain anything in your consciousness that you didn't purposefully put there. So what are you thinking about now? I'm thinking about that. Did you start it consciously, or you just accidentally start? Once you start to look into this, to inquire that, you'll be shocked how many things we entertain inside of our consciousness which we didn't start purposefully. They just happened. Now, that kind of happened is making us obsolete for the future. Now, the future needs human beings that are fully awakened from their biological machine, that have transcended their biological machine. And part of this process of transcendence starts with hygiene of consciousness, discovering and controlling, not suppressing, controlling all your emotions, feelings. Thus, you understand the whole galaxy of experiences that you have there inside of yourself, that you control your attention at will. These are the citizens' skills of the future. Such skills will be always welcome. Even in a completely mechanized and technologized and artificially intelligence environment, such beings will be always needed. But of course, if we are totally dependent on the objects around us, our attention is taken by the slightest noise, by the slightest beep on the screen or the phone or something, we will have a hard time in a world of machines. Very hard time. And I'm not saying that we will be in a Matrix-like scenario, because we are already in a matrix. And probably you heard that modern science started to intuit, the hypothesis that we are living in an illusion, created and generated illusion by a consciousness, is not that far-fetched anymore. Well, I have discovered that theory, and not only theory, but the practice to become aware of that and even get out of the matrix, I've discovered it in texts 5,000 years old. So it's nothing new in reality. It's new when you are amnesic, or when you pretend you didn't read those texts and then you say, wow, look what I came up with. Sure, congratulations. So yeah, this is what I would say would be practical for people today to start with. On top of that, of course, if you start to pay attention to the way you relate to the others and learn the dynamics of relationships. Relationships have their laws, like physics have its laws. Relationships has very precise laws. In the future, we will need that, because the future belongs to interconnection of humans. Machines are naturally, they're built to interconnect. They cannot stay separated. Interestingly, human beings have the option. We have a switch, and we are abusing it today to disconnect from each other, to disconnect from humanity. And yeah, of course, then we are surprised. Computers will interconnect and create a worldwide hyper-intelligence, while human beings, who are already built in to interconnect, we have the modem inside, built, biologically built inside of us. We can connect to form humanity as such, but we also have a switch. So that's the interesting part. We learn to use our superior choices, and as long as we learn that, yeah, we'll be a very happy citizen of this technological future. And then we can add, I'm sure, few enhancements to this biological machine. However, I would be cautious with that already, because we don't know much about this biological machine, and we risk to deteriorate it while trying to enhance it, which is exactly what happens in most of the cases today. I was surprised, for instance, to discover that instead of healing from outside, I can trigger from inside. Provable medically, I've shown that healing capacities that are dormant inside of my being. We did experiments with enhancing the conscious use of the brain, and we were managing to, in a large group of people, to determine a doubling or even tripling the conscious access to their brain capacity, just by exercises. And yeah, that kind of use of this amazing computer, well, that makes that computer already advancing extraordinarily fast in the future. So I would be careful before we mess up with this biological machine. I would study it far more before. I would transform it into our main study before trying to enhance it and do what we did with nature around us. You see, in the 19th century, we thought we can enhance nature. Then we need to invent ecology. Why? Because we messed up nature instead of enhancing it. So that's the same with human nature. Why would it be different even? We couldn't improve the planetary ocean, but we think we can improve the ocean of consciousness of the human being. Sure. That's a little bit, I would say, even arrogant in our claim. So I would say that's a good start to shift your attention towards yourself and get ready for transformation. You see, holding on the exterior frame makes you rigid, disqualify you for transformation. Try to learn to be in a state of flow. That's not something you decide, that's something you learn. You start to have a totally different relationship with transformation. Transformation means what? Ultimately, it means death, the death of the old. One of the biggest problems we have today in the world is that we are so fearful people. Fearful of what? Death. Transformation. The snowflake generation is what? A generation characterized by a paranoid fear of being annihilated, of not being taken into consideration, of being not important, significant. Well, that's rooted in this fear of transformation. That's why everybody wants to make their voice heard, but very few people want to listen. Very, very few people want to listen. They have their podcast. Everybody has their podcast on us. Soon we'll have 8 billion podcasts on the planet. But we don't have 8 billion listeners, which is a problem. Anyway, nobody listened to this podcast, so anyway, it's it's safe. The secret is safe with us.
No, they will listen for sure. I feel this podcast is really amazing and it will reach many people very soon. So I feel like based on what you said...
Depends on the option. Depends how we answer to this choice.
I feel that this embracing transformation, because I still consider that I'm part of this snowflake generation that you talk about. And
I didn't intend to make any hint on that.
I'm being open to take it because it's true, and I can see that without, for example, knowing more about Tantra Yoga and starting now to give these steps on this inner path, let's say, on connecting with this deep, profound spirituality, I wouldn't probably manage to have that aspiration to transform all the time. I will get comfortable. I will try to settle or to even reject. For example, when you were talking, I immediately felt a super rejection towards this advancement of technology and putting technology in our body. Like, I would be this person that would take few things in a backpack and will plant potatoes in the middle of nowhere, because I have a total rejection towards this evolution direction, let's say, whatever we want to call it, that I feel it's gonna happen or that we are heading towards too. And then while being on this path, all these teachings and all this looking inside attitude, let's say, made me realize that it's not correct to depend on these technologies, to give up our will, almost, our willpower, everything, and be completely attached to it, that we cannot drop it. But it's also not good, let's say, to have this attitude of rejecting and avoiding the problem, let's say, avoiding what life is bringing to us. And this kind of, as I feel, a little conclusion of what we shared today, made me feel that indeed being open to this transformation means that I have to face it, and I have to face it by developing these inner skills, by doing all that homework that you told me now to do about mental concentration and so on, so that I can be ready for dealing with life exactly as life comes. Because and how we cannot change it, let's say. We can change very little. It's happening, and we need to know how to approach it and deal with it.
Yeah, great conclusion, Kalas. That's synthesize it very well. You obtain your tools so that you can pack them in your backpack and go plant potatoes, if that is what life will come up with in the future, or who knows, maybe build some amazing places for your woman of spirituality that you are working now with, or who knows what other places life will take you at. Yes, that concludes very well this. Well, it's just scratching the surface of this subject, but like all the subjects here, they are in fact hopefully an appetizer for more. That was my intention with this podcast. This podcast is not intended to teach something. This podcast is intended to share with you some perspectives to help to increase the spiritual digestive fire, so that we look for more. Because one of the problems we have today is that we are obese from many perspectives, even physically obese, generally speaking, but also digitally obese, informationally obese, and therefore we can't get enough then of what we truly need. There is no room for that. So I hope this is increasing this inner fire to search for more, to look for more, like you said, to get the needed tools to truly belong as a citizen to the future. Thank you very much for participation to this discussion, and you are welcome back with other topics when you want to unfold another perspective.
Thank you so much, Ava. I feel that even on this topic I could do at least one more episode with you, because there are so many questions I still have and so many things I would like to still hear of you about this topic. But
then let's do it.
We have a chance.
And we'll do it again. And thank you all of you for listening, and also given the importance of this topic, I hope you can share with others and also post your questions and comments so we can establish a dialogue on this very important topic of our lifetimes. And don't forget, being alive is a continuous transformation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Continuous Transformation Podcast. For more episodes, articles, and events, visit advaitananda.com.